So this week, we're back in paradise, and cheers to Blake, because I'm pretty sure that's the best thing he's got going for him right now.
To Blake.
To Blake.
Cheers to That is a podcast dedicated to the deep questions of life that only a creative franchise like The Bachelor can inspire. Steph and Jayjack explore the stories, the drinks, and the bingo card-inducing drama on Cheers to That. Cheers! Alright, gang, so welcome to the very first episode of the only Bachelor podcast on the internet. This is Cheers to That. I'm Jayjack.
I'm Stephanie.
Yay! Alright, so first things first, drinks and drink design is how I make a living, so obviously I have to first and foremost talk about the drink of the week. Drink of the week was brought to you by Derek and Demi, and they ordered the... Yes?
Well, I was thinking of Derek and... When you said Derek and Demi, the first thing I thought was Frenchin, but, yeah.
Yeah. They weren't drinking French martinis. They were drinking spicy margaritas, which is, like, they're good. I don't know. They're usually made pretty basic. The observation I made about margaritas on this beach is no wonder everyone's dehydrated and miserable all the time. Is because they're drinking these giant Day-Glo sugar bombs.
If it doesn't look like something that goes into my car engine to, cool it, then I don't trust it as a margarita, is maybe their motto.
You take a fish bowl, you put it onto a wine foot, and you pour a bunch of neon green stuff in there. So I want to talk to you guys about a way to make margaritas at home that are going to be a little more satisfying. So a margarita is really just a sour. It's just 3 ingredients. It's your base spirit, tequila, obviously, your sweetening agent, which is going to be triple sec, and your sour agent, obviously, is lime juice.
I like all those things, so what's not to like?
Don't we all? It's as American as apple pie, I guess. Okay, so it's only 3 ingredients, but we think of margaritas as nice big drinks. So what I do is this: I do 1.5 ounces of tequila, 1 ounce of triple sec, a 1/2 ounce of lime juice, and then here's your little trick at home: add just 1 ounce of a Sauv Blanc or a Pinot Grigio. Just 1 ounce will round out the drink and make it longer, but not make it taste fake. Of course,
you can add some French wine. That's how you get your French in there.
There you go. That's our tribute to Demi with that. Now, obviously, you got to make it a little spicy. So take some jalapenos, juice them, and just add just a barspoon or a teaspoon of the juiced jalapeno to your drink.
Could you also add some of the pickle juice from the pickled jalapeno jar?
Oh, that'll be delicious. Yeah, a tequila pickleback margarita. No, don't do that.
Come on.
I mean, if you guys live in New Jersey, sure. But no.
Well, we know who would be into that. Spoiler alert, Jane. But
Oh, I got lots of notes on Jane. Anyway, so if you're interested in making this at home, check out the show notes to this episode, soundcloud.com/cheers to that podcast. And you can take the recipe home, impress your friends, win that promotion. It all starts with a good margarita. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about. We have 2 episodes back to back, 2 hours apiece.
It was a lot.
4 hours of really just rehashing what we called the Blakedown.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a Blake-centered storm, if you will.
Now, for you guys out there in Bachelor Nation...
Hurricane Blake.
Oh, man. I'm going to write a song about that. Maybe Jed can write a song about that.
Blake is definitely not Mr. Right, girl.
For you out there in Bachelor Nation, you've probably already devoured 1 to 2 to 5 different recap shows by the time this show is aired. We're not going to try to win the recap contest here. We just want to get into the nitty-gritty, get into the big questions, the deep philosophical quandaries that this show inspires. Yeah. So we're going to give you the very first ever in Cheers to That history rapid recap.
Rapid recap?
These are the 4 to 5 bullet points that you need to know if you're going to keep watching the show and getting all you can out of these podcasts. So here you go. I got only 4 points today. If you can only take 4 things away from the last 2 episodes, they would be: Jane is not plain. We know Jane's not plain because she loves hot sauce.
She just really loves hot sauce, you guys.
Hot sauce.
Yeah, it's sauce, and that's how you know it's, she's not plain Jane. She's spicy Jane, I guess.
She's proven it.
Yeah, all I could imagine was that she would have a hard time the next day. That's all I'll say about that.
Bullet point for the rapid recap number 2. The intro theme isn't as good this year, I think.
Yeah, I really was looking for them to, showcase some of the things that make these characters interesting, and it really was mostly like, here's me smiling. So they really missed out.
There was a Bibiana ass shot, which I didn't hate, but I'm not I'm not the target audience. I was confused.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got nothing.
So, bullet point number 3. The girls don't seem to understand how this show works.
Yeah, not to just, so constantly pick on Jane here, but there's one point where Chris Harrison calls everybody into the palapa, and she's like, "Oh, are we in trouble?" No, you're on a TV show. You have to go in there and get instructions so that the audience mostly is caught up to what we're doing here.
I'm thinking more about Annalise and Christina. They only have 3 days to win a rose, and they spend all their time picking fights with other contestants.
It's true. Yeah, they're the kind of one guy girls who don't have a guy yet, so they don't really have a plan. It's
well, they get date cards in order to take people out to pick fights with them on the date.
Right.
So, all right, and then of course there's bullet point number 4, and that is Blake has the most memeable face in all of Bachelor history.
I want every time a beautiful woman shows up on the beach with whom he has had some sort of dalliance, I really would love just the reactions as just little gifs that I can use throughout my texting life. Oh, did you spill coffee all over yourself? Cue the look of Blake realizing, oh, is that Christina? Oh, you get in an argument with your boss at work. Oh, I feel just like he did when he saw Kaylin and ran away to hide behind the couch.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those of you who are tech savvy out there, please get cracking. I want to see these on my Giphy feed very soon.
This is all I want right now. Christmas would come early.
All right, so now that you guys know pretty much everything you were missing over the last 2 episodes, let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's get into some real questions here. So number 1, going back to Kaylin, the whole Kaylin and Hannah situation from the last season, we were all convinced that Kaylin was going to be the next lead, and then it just kind of, she had such a sympathetic story and a really compelling story that a lot of women unfortunately have experienced themselves, and I thought it was going to be a shoo-in, and it all kind of petered out, and my theory is, do you think that Kaylin actually lost the lead because she cusses too much? Because you can't answer the question unless you use. You can't answer the question unless you use Clay's voice.
Well, I think Kaylin is kind of a just raw and honest woman, and I don't think that would be what America would see. I'm doing my best.
Thank you. That was
yeah, it's sort of a pubescent Kermit the Frog is kind of, yeah.
You have to warble.
Yeah, I mean, it takes some work. I mean, you really have to support with the diaphragm. There's a technique to it. I'm still finessing it.
You have to be sitting on a vibrating phone.
How do you know I'm not? So no, but seriously, I don't think that stands in the way. And honestly, that's one of the things that I've heard people mention about. Over here, we're very much like Team Mike for Bachelor. for the next one, for the next season. But that was one of the things that some recappers, I think the Here to Make Friends women, remarked that they wish that he would cuss less in some of his episodes on Hannah's season, because, you know, it just doesn't really like make him sound like the squeaky clean, all-American leading man that we're so accustomed to on this cookie cutter show. But I honestly don't think with Kaylin that that's maybe what stood in her way. I think maybe she was just dating somebody. I think maybe she was dating Blake or or somebody at the time that she could have been in the running. And I think that that's what ultimately caused her to not be available.
You talk about being raw and real, which was like, you know, the words you would use if you're making a drinking game out of Hannah's season. It's
also a really good, like, selling point for beef, you know, raw, real beef, 100% American Angus chuck.
I like processed and smooth beef myself.
I'm just saying, I don't know when we got into making these adjectives for people, but whatever.
So, well, it's just kind of like, you can use the words raw and real, just don't actually be raw and real. That I feel like that's kind of the MO for Bachelor, is like...
Yeah, as long as you can make them into buzzwords, but you're not doing anything that makes people uncomfortable.
Because Kaylin was a real potty mouth these last 2 episodes, and it reminded me of how things kind of petered out again with Colton's season. I don't know. Bachelor Nation, you tell us at the show notes. You can find those show notes again at soundcloud.com/cheers to that podcast. Leave your comments, and maybe we'll read them on the air someday. I don't know. You'll be famous, because you know we're going to be famous with this podcast. Anyway, okay. So,
no doubt in my mind.
I can see the dollar signs. Okay, next quandary. Okay, so this is the big one, and I want your take on this. And that is, okay, so if you can truncate the whole Blakedown situation to me, and the questions I have with it is, anyone who has watched these last 2 episodes is fresh from the whole Jed-Hannah debacle.
Yeah. And
then you have the Blake situation, and then later in the second episode you have the Annalise confrontation with Clay.
It's fun, right? It feels kind of good.
I just think that you're not ready. Well, what do you mean I'm not ready?
Oh, folks, he is doing the whole scene himself. This is...
I'm all the years of
highbrow improv right here.
Yeah, well, no. So the... I'm losing track of my thoughts.
Okay, so Annalise confronts Clay.
Well, it's just, you are, as an audience member, thinking about the Jed-Hannah thing. You're seeing a analog with the Blake, Tayshia, Hannah G, I lose track, Hannah G, and Kaylin debacle. And I feel like the producers or Annalise or someone was trying to also make an analog out of the Angela and Clay situation. First of all, do you buy that? Do you think it's the same situation, that they're being fuckboys like Jed was?
Blake and Clay?
Yes. Or is Blake yes, Clay no, Clay yes, Blake, like, just...
Yeah, so I think that Blake has pretty much just burned his candle at both ends and then a little bit on the sides, and, you know, it's just a big old mess of melted wax for Blake. I think that he has bitten off way more than he can chew. I mean, and honestly, like, I don't begrudge the guy for, like, having some fun in his 20s. People seem to find him attractive. I don't really get it. He looks like a grown-up version of the kid from the Iron Giant to me, but with like a military haircut and like a really long neck. And I'm not into it, but, you know, I mean, they seem to be into that. So I don't begrudge him having some fun and dating around, but you have to know, if you're going to date people who are in the same kind of pool of Instagram promoters, and apparently everybody was at Stagecoach, so
yeah, guys, if you want to meet hot Bachelor contestants, apparently that's the place to go. They seem to all be flocking there.
But if we've learned anything from Blake, don't, you know, hook up with all of them at the same time. because, people frown upon that. So it kind of hurts your chances as being looked at as a trustworthy or even appealing person once word gets around, and word gets around pretty quick, it seems like. So yeah, stupid move on Blake's part. For Clay, I don't know. I mean, if it really goes back to who you're gonna believe. Like, if we believe Clay and he really did break up with Angela 3 months ago, then fine. But I mean, if there's anything we've learned from Hannah's season, Hannah Beast, just make sure she really liked him because he was raw and real. Is that if you're going to break up with somebody, make sure they know that you're breaking up with them before you go onto a reality show that's predicated upon dating. Because that doesn't send the best message about your intentions.
With
he
Clay
may
and
have
Angela,
been trying to keep her on the side a little bit. We don't really know.
With Clay and Angela, you have a 2-month, 3-month gap, so that pretty much says it.
But I mean, but I'm saying we also don't know. Like, maybe she was getting texts from him where he was kind of like being sweet and flirty and whatever, and like making her think that like something could still rekindle. And if that's the case, then yeah, that's super unfair. Is it unfair to the point that like Annalise should make a spectacle out of like swooping in and trying to, block his date? I don't know. I think that it was in poor taste, and yeah, I think she has really terrible timing in trying to confront people. I
got more questions about that, but before we move on to the whole Annalise situation, is Blake a villain, or is Blake just kind of being irresponsible? Because it seems like the whole Kaylin situation was they texted a few times, then they had sex, and then that was it, wasn't it? And then they both go on the show.
Yeah. It's not entirely clear, except that there was a lot of conversation that went on, a lot of, even if some of it was texting and FaceTiming and stuff. And it seems like there was just a real miscommunication between the seriousness of it, because Blake was just like, oh, we agreed to just be friends. And he's like, really, like, that's his rallying cry, but we said we would be friends. And it's like, okay, well, if your friend shows up at a thing that, on the beach, and you find out, do you run and hide behind a couch?
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Like,
Yeah.
So, that in mind, do you think when she, like, flipped out and confronted him and he's like, I can't believe it, I had no idea, do you think he was telling the truth, that he really had no idea how serious it was to her? Or...
Well, I think, I think actions, obviously the cliche is true, actions speak louder than words, and, saying, oh, is that Kaylin? And running behind the couch and hiding and then, like, avoiding her speaks a lot louder than, oh, I'm so sorry, I thought we were cool. So, yeah. I don't think I believe him I don't think I believe his words as much as I believe his actions. Like, it was ridiculous.
I think it's a good point, because up to this point, I try to be as equitable as I can. I think guys come into these dating situations being totally irresponsible. I've been that guy before. I've unfortunately watched my friends experience it from other guys before as well, so it's really not cool. But on a show like this, where it's very much he said, she said, it's very in vogue to paint the guy as the villain immediately without any sort of equity or fairness. But I think you make a good point. If I really thought we were cool and you showed up on the beach, I wouldn't go running and hiding behind furniture.
I will say I do think that Kaylin put herself in a difficult situation, because she does have some ownership of this as well. She put herself in a difficult position, one, even agreeing to go on the show, and because she knew he was going to be there, and two, just letting this stew all day. I mean, all these women are around talking about how, oh my gosh, like, Blake's so cute and blah, blah, blah. And she's getting more and more upset, and she's not making the effort to confront him. And by the time she actually does, she is so, like, keyed up and pent up that like she has no choice but to just melt down and explode and cry.
And she's been womping it up all day, practicing all of her points on all the other girls.
If she had just...
A great way to spend your days listening to your bunkmate like practice yelling at you.
Yeah, and I mean she's certainly not getting any in anyone's good graces to get a rose by doing that either. Like she's kind of wasting her time and wasting her opportunity. But I digress. The point is she did herself a disservice by like letting herself get so worked up when she could have just like nipped it in the bud and gone to him when she was calm and not made such a big explosive deal out of it. So, I mean, I think she bears a little responsibility too, but, she wouldn't have even had to do that had Blake been a little bit more considerate of her feelings from the start.
I don't know. I feel like Christina, Annalise, and Kaylin just shot themselves in the foot. Like, you know, let's say that they were to make up with Clay and Blake respectively. They only have 2 roses to give out, 1 each. They're not going to give it to you. It was a huge negative situation. And who wants to give the rose to Christina or Annalise or Kaylin at this point? It's just like, you got to play a little. Unfortunately, yeah, the goal of the show is to go home engaged, which is so realistic. But
yeah, what is the whole timeline like? 2 weeks?
2 weeks. I mean, fair, but it's 2 weeks you're spending every single hour with.
Yeah, I mean it's intensive for sure.
It's more equitable than the actual Bachelor show if you think about it. The amount of time you get to spend with a potential partner, but still, there is an element of strategy involved. Like you have to stick around to get to the next week, so you have the rose and the power again, and you can actually have more say as to who your partner is. But if you're spending all your time picking fights with someone over someone they broke up with 2 months ago, it just it's frustrating. So my broader beef here, which is smooth and artificial. I mean raw and real. Yeah. Okay. Is that you see this with Annalise, you see this with Kaylin. It's this inability to confront well, and I feel like confrontation in America is so modeled poorly. I think especially for women. I think women tend to cave under the emotional weight of a confrontation, mid-confrontation. And I don't know. It's frustrating.
Well, you see it in real time when Annalise is talking to Clay because she has these like competing things going on in her head where she's like, okay, well, I want to be a strong woman and like pro-woman and pro my friend and, you know, confront this bad man on behalf of my friend Angela, and so she's going after Clay. However, she also is, you know, probably and I think this bears out in Ari's season and in last season of Bachelor in Paradise, she's kind of a people pleaser. Uh-huh. And so when she's, you know, trying to go for the jugular, but she's trying to do it in a way that like, oh, I don't really want to make a mess or like hurt your feelings or, right. You know, but you still like me, right? Like we're cool, but like I'm mad at you, but we're cool, right? Like those can't coexist. It's like when Onyeka was saying like, oh, I mean, I'm like really cool and laid back, but like if you make me mad, like you're dead, or you know, like I think it's like
the opposite of laid back.
Okay, yeah, that's not laid back. So yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, honestly, with somebody who is as seasoned, shall we say, as Annalise. She's definitely not the youngest person out there. It's a little disappointing that she doesn't know herself to the extent that she can just say, hey, yeah, I'm going to confront this person and maybe he'll think I'm a bitch. But it's worth it to me because I really care about my friend and he's doing her wrong. She's still trying to be liked and be, you know, looked upon as this sweet and agreeable, I'm cool, I'm breezy, I'm laid back kind of person, and you just can't do that. There's not a lot of...
It's really weird. Yeah. Like, why is there such a premium on being seen as laid back and easy? Like, would it be so bad to be considered someone who's uptight or type A or get her done? Like, it's...
Well, I really felt like Demi was kind of trying to call her on that a little bit. She was just like, oh, so you chose to do that at that point? Like, just basically criticizing her approach because she kind of thought it was, BS that she would choose that time to do it. And but Annalise is going around trying to curry favor with everybody and say like, oh, like, I did this and I had the best intentions, so I can basically do no wrong by doing this. And Demi was the only one to kind of say like, hey, that was kind of a stupid thing to do.
Yeah, which I did appreciate that. I'm not appreciative of how Demi is the self-styled coach for everyone, and she's also the self-styled narrator for the entire show. She's
actually kind of getting an edit or doing a performance or both this time around. In a way that reminds me a lot of Canadian Daniel. Do you remember him?
Oh, God bless. The Canadian Eagle?
Yeah, and I mean, so she's not being as misogynistic as he was with some of his analogies, but, about bruised fruit and things like that. Thank you, Daniel, for your produce metaphors.
Class act.
But before that season, the season before all of the misogynist references, he really got this edit of like, I'm this sweet, weird guy who is kind of outside of any kind of drama. So I'm on the outside of the drama, so I can't be hurt by it. But also I'm like totally in the vein of the emotional undercurrent here. Like I know exactly what's going on, and I'm going to speak as kind of this insightful, weird, I march to the beat of my own drum kind of person.
Which no one was asking for.
I mean, I think the producers were asking for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very on the fence about Demi on the whole.
Yeah. It's really got to be a little more like Machine Gun, like she can like bite down, like raise your nose in kind of a snarl, like then just.
I'm getting there. I gotta. It makes me cough.
Oh, don't hurt yourself.
Okay. Okay. So, as a woman,
yes,
which you are,
I am.
Like, let's discuss this. How can women be more confrontational in a healthy way that's not being, for lack of a better word, bitchy, but not being a wilting violet at the same time, like Annalise did? Well,
I mean, I don't know that, like, in the moment of confrontation that you can really control how you're going to be received. I think it's too much work. It's too much to expect for any person, man or woman. Like, you just have to say what you know is right, and maybe everything else that you say and do around these people can show them that you have good intentions and that you are a person who, is not bitchy or not unfair or not like, trying to stir the pot or something like that. You just be authentic and be kind, and then when it comes time for confrontation, maybe they'll hear, all the context around what you're saying and trust you a little bit more, because there's nothing worse than somebody who has absolutely nothing to say until there's something that they're upset about, and then it just comes off like this air horn, like Onyeka's air horn of like, oh, I had nothing to contribute except now I have a complaint.
Right.
And it just comes off really false, I think, like, and just not, doesn't really bring much to the conversation or much to the table.
I think a helpful thing to do is, this is good for men and women, no matter what the situation is walk into a confrontation not as a zero-sum fight where only one person can win, but come into it saying, hey, we have a problem, let's solve the problem together. So if Annalise were to come in and frame it like that, like, I'm confused why you're here, didn't this happen, what's going on, the emotional stakes wouldn't be so high.
Yeah, and maybe that's kind of what happened, is that she got into it and realized that she went in with kind of like an attack rather than asking questions and trying to understand the situation. And when he rebutted with like, oh, well, we broke up 3 months ago, what are you talking about? She didn't really have a defense, and so she got kind of defensive.
Right.
So you kind of see that it's not just her having strong feelings about it. It's that she hadn't thought through both sides of the story. And if she had gone in saying like, hey, this is what she told me, what is your take on it? She still could have come away with that, like not really believing him, but at least she would have given him the opportunity to feel understood rather than just looking like an idiot who didn't have a plan at all.
Right. And then you spend the entire evening crying at the bar, drinking your 2 sugary spicy margaritas.
Yeah, I mean, she exudes a lot of uncertainty in general, so that it seems kind of typical.
All that being said, she and Chris B hit it off, and I actually would... I like Annalise, honestly. And
Yeah, she seems like a cool girl. I know I'm being really critical of her, but it's because she seems like a normal person, and those are a little bit hard to come by on this show.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I just get really frustrated when I see people pick fights and not have the chutzpah to follow through with their actual point, and it's I don't know. So I want to see her do well. I really do. So
yeah.
Okay. So that being said, now that we've solved all the problems in the world in half an hour, let's talk about what's coming up next in this season. So we here at Cheers to That are big fans of interacting and having fun together. And girls, just so you know, if you want to get your husbands / boyfriends involved and actually watch the show with you, nothing will do better than adding a competitive element to it.
Yes, this is how I got Jayjack, or Josh as he is known in less dynamic, creative contexts than this podcast.
Nothing's as creative or dynamic as this podcast.
Like on his driver's license, for example. This is how I got him into the Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise franchise in the first place, is I said, hey, we can do a point system like fantasy football, and he was in. So, and he's never looked back. So
we're going to offer that same experience to you. So moving forward, we are doing Bachelor Bingo. Yay! So go to our show notes on SoundCloud.com. Cheers to That podcast. You're going to see a link to next week's episode's very own bingo card. We found a website online where you can download and create your own bingo cards. So please do us a favor. Go and play with us. Go and download, click on the link, download the next week's bingo card, play with us. If you score a bingo, then please take a picture of it, post it on Instagram, hashtag Cheers to That pod, and we'll just stay in touch that way. It's really fun. So let's interact together. Let's have fun. Let's engage with the show with the same tongue-in-cheek humor that we all should approach it with. And let's have a great summer.
That should be in the title sequence. Almost Paradise. But I made the bingo cards from scratch. Just started them off with populating them from different cliches and things you might expect to see on Bachelor in Paradise. So had a lot of fun with that. Obviously, if you haven't played bingo before, it's a pretty simple game. You just want to get a full row top to bottom or a left to right. So if you get it,
or diagonal.
Yeah, so if you get one of those, let us know. We would love to see that people are playing along with us. It's a lot of fun.
All right, gang, so that is the first ever episode of Cheers to That, and it shows. We look forward to hanging out with you guys next week, diving into the drama and the deeper questions of life that only this show can inspire. So cheers.
Cheers.